Okay, folks, today is May 18th, 2015. It's 7:05 p.m. We'll call to order this meeting of the Brattleboro Development Review Board. I read the same opening remarks every time for the benefit of those who haven't been here, so if you've heard this, please bear with me. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. In the event our decision is appealed to the Environmental Court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearing, from this hearing tonight, the regulations or applicable law, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decision of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by this board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at the hearing. As we're on the record, we're going to ask that you affirm that your testimony is truthful. So if anybody here thinks that they may speak to an application, and certainly if you're an applicant, I'm going to ask you to rise and I'm going to administer the oath that you be truthful. So could anybody who thinks they may speak or who has an application please rise and repeat after me. I hereby swear or affirm that the testimony I'll give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. I do. Okay. Was there some dissent over there?
No, sorry.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
I thought we had to say the whole thing.
Oh, you're fine, you're fine. So you can have a seat. If you were sitting and you change your mind and you want to testify, please make me aware that you need to be sworn in, or else your testimony won't be considered part of the record. To be evidence on the record, you have to be sworn. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That's 4 votes out of 7. Tonight, we have 6 people here tonight. We have 6 people here. However, to have an application approved, you'll still need 4 votes to pass. What we do in situations like these, when we have less than the full 7, is we give applicants the opportunity to continue their application to a later date. We usually have a full board of 7. I don't think we've had a short board for a couple of months here. So if you wish to continue your application to get a full board of 7, we'll accept that motion generally without prejudice. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls that 45-day timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments or employees will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and other interested parties. Okay. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from
April 20.
Thank you, April 20th, 2015. Can I have a motion to that effect?
And will we accept the minutes as written?
Okay. Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 6-0. Mr. Bannon, has the meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
Disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. We have one conflict of interest that I know of in advance, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And that's with respect to which application?
452 South Main.
Okay, that's 2015-22. No, that's okay. I'm just doing this to make a clean record. Are there any other conflict of interest or ex parte communications? So that means for our first application, 2015-22, which is going to be Mr. Hagedorn's application, that means that we'll have a board of 5 members. Is anybody here for that application? That's your application? Okay. So in this situation, you can move forward tonight. You'll need 4 of the 5 votes, or you can ask to continue it, and I can't guarantee it, but you'll most likely get a full board of 7 next time around. Do you guys have an idea of how you like to approach that? I hate to put you on the spot, but
Does it mean if we fail this time, we can't reapply?
yes.
And that would make sense to have the full board,
Okay.
I think, right, wouldn't it? I mean,
It's up to you, but if you're worried about margin, then it would make sense to give yourself a larger margin, of course.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who's said that they might be able to listen to the recorded testimony?
I haven't asked, but typically people
Okay.
are willing.
Okay. Then
Joe would do that. Wouldn't we have members? I mean, I know we have not got a confirmation on it.
Has Joe done that before?
I don't think he has, but I think he would.
Okay, so I can tell you that we could have an additional member who's not here, Mr. Bushy, listen to the recorded record that we're making here. We're recording all this. That would give you 6 votes. I'm not trying to negotiate with you. I'm trying to figure out a way to make this a little more flexible than it is. Does that change your inclination at all, or do you still want to wait until?
well, could you define what the dispute means? Like, is it a member of the panel, or is it a member of the community? Like, what-
So Ms. Hasegawa, who's seated to my left, she went to look at the site today, and someone began to speak to her that was a neighbor and asked some questions about the application. And Ms. Hasegawa was concerned because some of that conversation, in retrospect, she felt was a violation of our duty not to communicate about to not communicate about an application unless we're here together on the record. She doesn't have any interest, but she visited with me, and I think we agreed that it would be appropriate for her to conflict out of the application.
I mean, if we're gonna counter.
Well, I don't want to risk failing, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, we're.
But I guess what you're saying is, so another night, there might be another selection of you members, or?
So we have 9 people,
Does it matter?
and there's supposed to be 9 people here, but life intervenes. However, I think for the last 4 or 5 meetings, we've had either 7 or 8 people, and we've been able to give people the benefit of the full 7 votes if they want to try to get those 4. And I certainly expect that Mr. Bannon could do a roll call next time, knowing that we wouldn't want to continue an application twice for the same reason. Did you want to chime in here?
Just perhaps Brian can confirm this. The missing members of the board tonight are Joe, Rebecca Ballon.
She
who's
resigned.
resigned.
She
So we're
resigned.
down to 8 anyway.
Yeah.
Technically, we're down to 8.
Yes,
we're
that's
missing
right.
Joe, which would be 7,
That's right, and we're missing Mr. Guin.
and Mr. Gurn's not here. So
Yeah.
to explain it precisely to you, there are 2 members tonight. There are 2 members that could attend at the next meeting that are not here tonight, that we assume would have no conflict of interest or had no communications with anyone relating to the application.
Right.
And
Well,
one
we
of
just
those-
want to have the best possible
Sure.
chances for the success of what we're trying to do.
Understood.
But we're willing to, explain any question, but what you're saying is we can't have any testimony here without a judgment, or can we offer testimony without a judgment?
Absolutely. Sorry.
Yes, no, you could have testimony here, and we could
We'd
continue.
be happy to answer any questions without a judgment being made, so that,
But then the other people
the
want.
concerns
Yeah, I mean,
could be
that's the
addressed.
thing, the 1 or 2 people who come to the next meeting, when you get your vote, you may end up doing the same thing over, unless they're willing to listen to the recorded hearing.
Just wait till the next meeting.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Okay, so I'll hear a motion to continue application 2015-22.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, so,
Do we have the date?
yeah,
Continue to-
why don't we get them the date? What is it?
June 15th.
Oh, it's a five Monday month, huh? Okay, so June 15th, and Mr. Bannon we'll try to do a roll call to make sure we get a board of 7, okay?
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks.
That takes care of your conflict. So you're back in the game? Yes. So then the first application that we'll call is application 2015-52. That's Mr. Weitzner and Ms. Menendez? Sorry, Menendez. You ever done this before?
No.
So if you could come sit at this table, you see that little microphone, that picks up what you're saying so the people who are watching on TV can hear this. And could you tell us a little bit about your project?
Why don't you start?
We are looking to build a house on our land very close to our current house within a 1 acre area because we are on land trust protected property that only allows us to have human dwellings on that 1 acre. But we live in a, is it 3 or 3.5 acre zone?
We live in the rural area, rural district, zoning district, which technically has a 3 acre minimum per dwelling. Our property extends on our side of the road to a total of 82 and a bit acres. We are unable to use, other than the 1 acre, any of that for human purposes, building of dwellings or accessory buildings that are not agricultural in nature. Anywhere outside that 1 acre is off limits to us because of the Vermont Land Trust easement that was in place when we acquired the property. That land trust easement was actually one of the earliest Vermont Land Trust easements granted in Windham County, if not the first. It was set up in 1977, if I remember correctly. We acquired the property in 1996. So it was a pre-existing situation, not something that we entered into with the land trust. We were actually unaware of the 1 acre limitation until we went to erect a cabin, which is actually in the exact same spot where we want to put this larger building.
Is the cabin also known as the yurt, or are these
No.
those two different things?
No.
No, the yurt is a temporary building that is also within that 1 acre confine, and it is not in the same spot.
So this building is not being put up with, we would not be allowed, nor do we have an intention of ever subdividing. We're trying to build a house that is not over a damp, dark, very unhealthy spot, which is where our house is right now, which is very difficult to fix. And we've lived there for 20 years, and we've basically decided for our family's health, we need to be away from that spot. But we only have this 1 acre we can work in. So there's no proximity or closeness to any other neighbors. There's lots of space all around, but we just have this very small choice of where we can do anything different.
What is your plan with respect to the wastewater?
We have engaged Michael Marquise of Marquise and Morano in Bellows Falls to establish the design for that, to make the design for that. And we have yet to receive a proposal from them, but he did come recently and identified, with the aid of an excavating contractor, suitable spots for leach fields.
And backup, and also backup.
Is the you have a existing well, right?
We do.
And it's
We have a well for our current house.
which could be used for the.
It could be, we would like to explore having a separate well, but we're not sure
Okay.
which way that will go.
And this new house is going to be appended to the existing cabin structure or an extension thereof, or?
Most likely, that's
Most likely.
that's
Yeah.
our proposed plan at the moment. It is.
And your current house, your existing house is to remain, or
Yes.
you're going to uninhabit it? And
No, it would remain,
No,
and we would use it for alternative purposes, possibly for short-term rentals. Who knows? We haven't quite decided that yet.
so the property that you're building or proposing to build will end up being your primary structure.
Yes.
That's correct.
Primary home or house on the property.
Yes.
Okay.
So the current house is right on the road.
It is.
Yes.
And that's another strike against it, so to speak. Yeah.
So, to be clear, it's going to be a separate septic system. Everything will be separate for the new house
Yes.
as from the old house?
Yes.
The state requires that one cannot combine an existing septic system with the requirements for a new dwelling. We're fortunate to have enough ground that we can actually build that separate system within the property without difficulty.
As you have 82 odd acres, where's the side property line in relation to this?
Excuse me.
Where are your property lines in relation to this?
If you look at the larger map, which we
Yeah.
provided, you can see the outline of the property. I've cross-hatched the edges of it on the tax map.
So this new structure is nowhere near a property line?
Nowhere
No.
near.
You're hundreds of feet away?
The nearest line would be the road itself,
Yeah, okay.
and that's over
That's on
200
this
feet
side.
away.
It's more to do with if the property line had been 15 feet from where
Right.
you were putting your new structure, for whatever reason.
Right, no.
Because the 1 acre granted to you by the land trust happened to do that.
Right, no, it
Then
doesn't.
there may be an issue, but
Yeah.
Right.
you're miles away from anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Question for Brian, is there anything, are there any zoning regulations regarding two houses on one lot with one as a primary, one as a rental?
One house would be the primary structure, the second would be a secondary use, which is what you're approving.
Do you know that if you rented, is there any possibility you'll rent your current house for residential use?
That's one of the things we would consider, but
Do
we
you know if-
haven't decided.
Do you know if the current septic can handle the possible increase in use?
Well, there wouldn't be an increase in use. It's designed for a 3-bedroom house.
Okay. but
The
you're
house
not
actually
planning
only
to-
has
We
2
only have
bedrooms.
one real bedroom and one
I see.
half
Yeah.
bedroom.
But you're not planning to chop it up into a number of
No,
units? or
No,
have
no,
bedrooms
no,
or
it's too
anything
small.
like that?
No.
It couldn't work very well from that point of view.
Understood.
Yeah. And as we understand it, a 3-bedroom system is actually suitable for 6 people. I don't imagine 6 people wanting to live in that house.
We don't want 6 people to live in that house.
Right.
It's correctly permitted as it stands.
It is,
Yes.
That's all
yes.
we need
Yes,
to really
Yeah,
yes.
the existing system dates from 1996 when we acquired the property.
Great.
Yeah.
Further questions?
I'm just a little, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm just a little concerned about what the intent was when this was put, the property was put with the land trust. I'm thinking perhaps the land trust, and I don't know
I
this, so
can
I guess
answer
I'm
that.
asking anybody else
I can
too.
answer that. When the land trust puts a conservation easement on some property, they always have an exclusion zone that is part of that agreement. And that exclusion zone means that that amount of space is not subject to the land trust agreement, and it has to follow the regular rules of the town. So it's no different from anybody else's acre, it's just that it happens to be, we don't have 3.5 acres that we can parcel out somewhere else on our land. We can only work within this 1 acre because everything else has a conservation easement on it. So
That's
we're very limited, even though we have a lot of space, we only have 1 acre we can do any human dwelling activity within.
And it's not subdividable, right?
It's not, no.
No.
It wouldn't
That's-
be anyway
this-
because it's not in the, it's in the rural residential zoning
No,
area.
it would be if it didn't have the land trust easement on it.
But I mean, that 1 acre can't be subdivided. The two houses can't be separated because they're too close.
That's
Yeah.
okay, I'm saying that more for his benefit.
Yeah, okay.
George, this is absolutely typical of a land trust easement. In fact, the 1 acre is somewhat small.
Yeah.
If you were to convey land to the, to the land trust now, it would probably be 3 acres. The homestead parcel.
Yeah.
But their agreement presumably goes back to 77 or 76 or 75 when 1 acre was what was put in it.
Right. We did actually attempt to get them to reconsider that and give us a little bit more space to work with, and they refused. So that's why we're here.
The agreement is very tight and very serious, and we really respect it. So we're trying to work within that boundary.
Everybody content? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about this application? Okay, I think it's probably appropriate that we add a condition requiring that the applicant obtain a state permit for their wastewater system.
Which we have to do.
I can't think of any other conditions necessary.
I'm good.
So if someone would make that motion, I think we can move this thing through.
Motion to approve application 2015-52 with the condition
Get a
as
state permit.
previously stated.
Yeah. Okay, the motion's made,
Second.
seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a nice night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sure. The next application is 2015-53, Mr. Prohaska? Tell me how to pronounce your name so I don't... You got it. I got it, okay. That's wonderful. Oh, okay.
I believe. I could be wrong.
So, Mr. Cuthbertson believes that one of you may not be sworn in. Is he correct about that?
Probably me.
Thank you.
I was a little late.
Okay, I just have to administer the oath to you, sir.
Myself too.
And can you say your name for the record?
Stephen Gordon.
Okay, Mr. Gordon, can you raise your right hand? Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
I should also, because I was a few minutes late
Oh,
also.
you can say I do if you heard that pretty clear.
I heard it, I do.
Okay, could you just say your name so that we have...
Robert Prohaska.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right, Mr. Prohaska. And who's the gentleman who's giving us a little presentation here?
It's Brud.
My name is Brett Sanderson with Stevens and Associates.
Wonderful. So, could you please tell us about your project?
Sure. It's with the Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. What we're looking at is, from a construction point of view, relatively small. We're trying to increase or add to the parking to the hospital. Currently, there's what we're proposing is actually grab it one. What we're proposing is to add parking here in front of what's referred to as the Dunham Building, and here behind 55 Belmont. This is Belmont Street right here, and this is the main access to the hospital. Any emergency room and main entrance to the hospital is right here. It's the place that's in front of Belmont is currently it's a graveled area. That graveled area was used for a couple different things over the past few projects. With the Richards building, I believe it was temporary parking for staff.
That is correct.
And during the emergency room department project, it was the phasing area for the project. The contractors and the subcontractors utilized that area.
What was it before that? Was it grass?
It was just grass, I believe.
Grass area.
Yep.
And the clam bake area, yes, that is correct. And the health fair.
So that spot, we're looking to add, I think it's 16 spaces into this particular area. It would eliminate 2 spaces here, so that this is 18 spaces. We eliminate 2 here, so we can drive in and come out. It's a dead-end parking lot. We're anticipating that it'd be used by staff mainly, so it wouldn't have a lot of turnover. We'd open up other areas for patients. This other space behind 55 Belmont would eliminate a couple parallel parking spaces here, and it would, again, we're trying to allow for continuous parking or drive-through parking. So we would eliminate 2 spaces here and pick up a few spaces in that aisle that's right here. And then right along this edge would also add spaces. So we're here for approval on this parking, but it also has an Act 250 permit. So we're also here to look for the Act 250 impact questionnaire as well. From a stormwater point of view, we're looking to go to pervious pavements in these areas. The soils out there are extremely porous. We did test pits recently, and it's just pure gravel, and the water just goes right straight in and doesn't even build up really. Trying to think, as I said, it's relatively small, but I guess what's important to know here is after looking at this application and looking at this a little bit further, the hospital would also, I don't think you can speak on it, not today because we only recently were developing this idea, but we're hoping to get some feedback if possible. We actually looked at the idea of expanding this so we actually pick up a few more spaces here. And I'll flip the page here to show you what it looks like. Like I said, we know it came as not part of this application, so we don't know if we can formally speak on it.
Is this not something we have?
It is not something you
Okay.
have.
Thank you.
But we're just hoping, we wanted to tell you everything.
I'm
we're
only
thinking about.
clarifying, so I'm not looking
Sure.
at
Yeah.
one thing that looks similar and getting confused.
So you can see that dark line here, and this shaded area, and this shaded area were on the previous plan.
So the shaded area to the right of the dark line we do have, and the
Right.
shaded area to the left of the dark line, that's the new area.
That's the new area. There's a garage here we're looking to demo and potentially add in 10 spaces there.
What is the landscaping like on that far, I guess it's western side, where, so the portion that's new?
This here.
Yeah.
There's a driveway here, there's some large trees, there's a couple of shrubbery in that area. But the site plan itself is incomplete. We weren't initially looking at that area, which otherwise we would have surveyed a little bit further in that direction.
Right. And on your existing conditions plan, my assumption, because it says it's the existing conditions, is that the trees and the landscaping indicated thereon are all current?
Go back
Sure.
to the existing.
On
Yeah,
C1,
I would say
C1.
that the answer is everything that's here is existing. There
Okay.
is one thing that we noticed when we were doing our site after the application. There's a group of trees along Belmont that are actually omitted from the plan. And I put them on the second plan, but they're missing from the first.
that was one of my concerns, that this be adequately screened, because it's not totally, it's different than the rest of the neighborhood, you know? Is there some possibility that you could beef, or is it unnecessary to beef up the landscaping so that it would look less like a parking lot? In the
I
middle
don't
of the
have any real concerns
No.
with adding landscaping.
If you'd like to add landscaping
Certainly.
between the parking and Belmont Avenue, certainly that's something we'd be happy to consider.
Yeah.
Can I ask what's created the need for the additional parking?
Well, you know, I'm Steve Gordon, I'm the president of the hospital. Over the last several years, the outpatient traffic at the hospital has increased fairly dramatically. So these are folks that are coming in, seeing a physician, getting tests, whatever, and then leaving. And which requires more space now on the campus for that kind of traffic. And in the winter months, and like this past winter when we've had a significant snow, we're constantly losing spaces. and our patients are constantly driving around the hospital
Where
parking
is the
lot.
present snow storage?
So we store some snow in some of our parking lots over toward Belmont, and we do over time remove that as we get a chance. And LaRock brings that to who is our contractor, and they bring it to their place down in Guilford to allow it to melt. They have a field there. But during when we have times of intense snow and it's piled up, it does take us a while to remove that and have it brought down to Guilford.
So it's an increase in patients that's driving the.
On the
it's not an increase in
outpatient.
staff or additional facilities or
No,
planned facilities that are coming.
Yeah.
The idea here, as you heard Bud say, was that this would be staff parking, but it's not because of an increase in staff. It's because this parking is less proximate to the entrances.
Okay.
So we would put this for staff and have the other parking existing be for closer to the entrances for patients.
Sure. About 2 years ago, you were before this board for an auxiliary or ancillary parking lot further down Canal Street behind the station. Is that still true for staff, specifically for staff?
Yes.
That's to remain.
Well, it's not
in
just
service?
staff, though.
Right.
We have a lot of students that come up from Greenfield for, nursing training, other colleges, and we mandate that they park
Sure.
in that
When I
auxiliary
say-
lot and walk to the
I
hospital.
wasn't necessarily being overly specific about staff. It was not intended as patient parking.
Correct.
It was
Oh, yeah.
intended as
Yes.
employee or
Right.
or you know.
Correct. And that is
And that
its
is still
purpose.
staying in service.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Can you talk to me a bit about the pervious pavement?
Yep.
I mean, gravel is gravel, and gravel is relative. Well, it's properly, like shore pack is not pervious one bit.
It's-
So you have a plan for.
Yep.
Is it in the documents and I just didn't see
On
it?
C3, there's a pervious asphalt detail in the middle of the page.
So it's pervious asphalt.
Yep.
All right.
Which would have, a regular, not regular, but it had asphalt surface, which is porous, and then there's in it is a stone basin
Yep.
that holds the water until it perks through.
Sorry, I had looked at the last page. It was just a question of whether it was asphalt or whether it was concrete pavers, that style.
Gotcha.
Right.
And what about lighting? Is there any changing to lighting?
We were looking to add 2 15-foot LED poles
Down
on that
here.
side, on the Maple side of the Dunham parking right here. And
Downcast?
Downcast, yes, shielded. Yep, absolutely.
15 foot, you said?
Yep. Yeah, trying to.
Maple side?
And
This
that's-
is Maple Street side right here.
And that's
So
going to
we-
be LED, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So the entrance, the main
Is that
entrance.
Maple or is that Canal?
Canal.
Yes,
Canal.
very good. Sorry about that.
We're ahead, hey, listen, we're ahead of you.
It was a test. You're listening.
Yeah, you got me.
This area that used to be grass and has been a construction staging area, and really, wouldn't it be nice if it was grass again? Can we? I mean, around this is going to be grass, and you're showing no additional landscaping going in on that
We
edge.
certainly can put trees along
Yeah.
that edge.
It would be kind of.
Absolutely. I
You're,
think it
you're
would be
basically
actually.
moving parking further out and
Yeah.
expanding it. So
I think it
some
makes
form
sense.
of trees or shrubbery on that, on the what would be the northern edge, I guess.
I mean, I thought you were in the southern edge.
Northern,
Southern edge.
southern edge. Yeah.
Beg your pardon. Sorry.
The idea being that the screening is from Belmont.
No, Belmont. No, and also Canal. So that when you're coming in the main hospital and you're walking, we used to have, as you said, clam bakes out there
Oh, you mean as you turn in from Belmont?
as you turn in from Belmont. Yeah, there's something in that area there.
So basically to
Right.
the west of our main drive as you come in, some screening for the parking there.
to the west of the So you've got these 18 spaces going in there, and
Right.
let's soften it a bit.
Okay.
See, my understanding, and I may be going from bad memories here, was that there was some screening there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, there is some screening. There's a few trees. Unfortunately, a few of them were large trees and have unfortunately died over the years. And we have put some smaller trees between the walkway and the drive. We have added a couple of trees there over the years
Okay.
to try to make up for it. But if the
I was-
request is to add some more trees between, say, the walkway
And
and
the
the new parking,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I
That's
think along
fine.
Belmont.
Or
in
perhaps
particular.
shrubs.
Okay.
Something so you can't see a wall of cars. as you walk
So
around
something like
Belmont.
an arborvitae or something like that, that's a kind of fast-growing evergreen type of thing that acts as a shrub?
Those-
Or you could go. What did we do the other day? Forsythia.
Forsythia?
I mean,
Oh,
those
are
kind of,
beautiful.
like green,
Yep.
low bushes
Yep.
that you flower in the spring and
Yep.
they're pretty, and then you can cut them back as much as you like so they don't get wild.
I'm a lilac man myself.
Lilacs?
But
Okay, we can do lilacs.
the thing we're thinking is just so that the people in the neighborhood and the ones who
Yeah.
walk down that Belmont don't feel like they're all of a sudden, you know, in this.
Right, understood, understood. your
And a
concept.
fountain with the
With
stone benches.
With a little boy on it?
Koi pond?
Right, quite.
Koi pond? A tinkler? No. We know, Joe. Just to soften that.
Understood.
Sort of, you know, what do you want to call it? The industrial part.
The urban look,
The urban
right.
look, yeah.
Okay,
Just
understood.
soften it. And
Is,
whether it's lilacs or pick a shrub.
Forsythia, oh, right.
Forsythia, pick a shrub. Or small, what are those
Or a mixture.
trees called?
Mixture, yeah.
You know, crab apples or say that's just something.
Yeah.
all right,
That's some nice
let's
crab
get serious here. Let's get
That was serious.
All right. Is there, I'm just,
Flower and cherries.
is there a provision for bicyclists presently who want to bike to the hospital?
We do have a number of bike parking areas.
Okay.
There's one right in front of the Dunham Building. There's a couple we put in on the covered entrance, so the bikes are covered by the Richards Building entrance. We have one over toward one of the older entrances to the hospital, and a couple by the Gannett Building. So we do have some
Okay.
bike parking areas there.
And those have been sufficient to handle whatever the current traffic is?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I'm glad to say, actually, they're getting used more often than they were a few years ago, actually.
Is there a provision here, even as limited as electrical conduit, to provide for future electrical vehicle charging?
We do have, the Richards, the Dunham Building itself has a lot of outside electrical outlets, right, and we do have one space designated there. We could certainly add, a lot of the spaces in that area could be used for electrical vehicle charging in the future because there are a lot of outlets there.
I think sorry, just speaking.
I was about to ask Brian what the rule is. I
Sorry,
can't remember.
well, our policy now is even if you don't provide the electrical charging, that you provide the power conduit so that it can be put in. When you're
yeah.
laying the concrete or the curbstones or the impervious paving, is that there is provision for it, and I think it's 220 volt stuff. And
Well,
it's-
we have some right now. Electric cars can do 120 or 220, 220 being the quicker charge. And yes, that is, there are provisions for that if we wanted to add that later, absolutely.
Okay. Brian, is there a numerical requirement for those, or is it just you got to have?
I think
One-
the state might be looking for something on Act 250, but I haven't heard what it is.
It's,
Okay.
when we looked at this before, it's 1 per 25.
Really?
Yep. One charging station per 25.
But not
minutes.
our responsibility to enforce. Enforced
know
on
whether-
Act 250?
I don't know about enforcing. We just so if you go to 26, you have to have 2.
Gotcha.
Everything up to 25 is a single charging station.
Correct.
As the recommendation, right? Correct. That was my recollection. Anyway.
It was his draft language,
yeah.
I think.
It would
Maybe-
be prudent to provide it anyway.
It wouldn't be that.
Maybe it would be
Yeah.
a sensible
Right,
condition
exactly.
just to be consistent with the Act 250 requirements or anything else.
Right off
Yes.
of
If that asks for more,
55.
then sure.
Yeah, or less, you know.
But it's just the conduit.
We don't want to be inconsistent there. Okay. Are there further questions from the members of the board? Are there any questions or comments from the members of the public? Okay. So, Brian, I don't think we can deal with the new plan because it's not been warned, correct?
I think that's correct, yes.
Okay. I mean, just for your information, I see no obvious problems with it if you want our feedback.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask, and I don't know if this is even acceptable, is we wanted to get it in front of you because we wanted you to know where we were going.
Sure.
Or we were thinking about going. And we were wondering if it would be possible to say, you know, to give enough feedback so that it could be approved administratively by Brian at a later date.
How many spaces is it?
It would be adding 10 spaces.
Adding 10 further?
Yeah,
And demolishing the existing structures
that's
on there?
correct.
And the building in front is owned by the hospital?
Correct.
Is that possible procedurally, Brian?
I think it's possible. I think you need to determine whether it makes any further impacts for Act 250.
Right.
My own personal view is that the question is one of screening, similarly to my concern with the other spaces. I don't know if the other the other people feel differently here.
Potentially, you could stipulate that too if you're okay with that.
I mean, I'm going to presume you don't want to go to Act 250 twice.
That's right. That's really we only want to do it once.
Right.
You want to go
We only
one time,
want to come here once
time
as well.
only. So from this board, you need it as tight and done as you can get it done.
Right.
Well, my thought for conditions for the other parts of the proposal would be that there be a provision for EV charging consistent with whatever the Act 250 requirements are, and landscaping necessary to screen the parking from Belmont Street and the sidewalk next to it. Am I missing anything? Anybody? And in my view, I think that the same conditions can easily apply to the proposed lot on the west side of that line. But tell me if you folks think differently. I mean, we can.
What would be the circulation to those parking spaces?
These would be, these 5 spaces would be, they'd have to turn around and go back out the same.
So the concrete.
We would obstruct.
You're showing a concrete walkway on the west side of the building there. That
By
gets
the
to go-
garage,
yeah.
by the garage, you mean?
that goes to the garage or behind the garage to the
It goes
back
to
of
the
the garage.
side of it, yeah.
Right.
That all gets to go.
The walkway would go to the parking lot just as it does now, but it
Right.
would hit the parking lot sooner. So we'd maintain that current access.
What's the grade like there?
It's
Pretty
relatively flat.
Or
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
starting to climb like no?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, on the site plan, it's a 4.
And the paved driveway to the west, again, to the west of that property, that would be decommissioned?
It would still be in effect, but it
What's
would
the
be
purpose?
terminated so it couldn't go through.
Right.
So it's not going to go through to that
That's
property?
right.
Correct.
So we're not creating a new entrance
That's
or
right.
a new
No.
exit?
That's
No.
right.
Is there any reason for that paved driveway? Can that be removed?
I think they do use it for
We do
parking.
use it for parking 455. We could probably, cut it back a little bit because it doesn't have to go to a garage anymore. But so long as it could hold the 2 or 3 vehicles that park there now, that would be fine.
We typically have 3 vehicles there for the occupants of that house. That's our development office.
No, I see.
So you have 3 kind of back to back to back?
Correct.
So the
Would-
pave,
Go on, go
the
ahead.
paving on this new lot
It's here, yep.
would be the same?
It would all be pervious pavement, yep. Yep.
But it will be sloped
There'll be some
into
pitch
your
to
main
it.
drain there.
It'll be some pitch to it, but it won't impact or go into the existing stormwater stormwater system that's serves the campus now. It'll fall right into the asphalt. But it does, it's open.
Even with a hard rain. I'm sure you don't want to go through what you went through before. so.
Yeah, no.
No, sir.
Not at all.
I think, does there anyone have any feelings about cutting that driveway back to the entrance of the property? So there's a clear kind of landscape section between that and this secondary parking. Because there wasn't,
Yeah.
sorry, no.
There's a house to the left
Yeah.
of that too, so it's not.
Once the
a
garage
big
is
area.
gone, once the garage is
Yeah.
gone and
Yep.
we expand out here, then this driveway has no purpose to go to the garage, so.
That's correct.
Just
Correct.
cut it back to the entrance of the property. There's steps there or something, or a door
Oh.
there, or.
Well, we'd want to go a little further than that, again, to
Well-
allow the 3 cars, but
Allow
to
the
your
3
point, to
cars, for
not,
sure,
not make it even appear as if it connects to the parking lot.
Correct.
That's fine, yes.
And I would propose.
Like Jersey barriers.
Well, we wouldn't put that up there, no, please.
Oh, I think we landscaped it.
Let's make it
Right.
green, put a green belt
Yeah.
in there.
Right.
A green, what do you call it, side.
I think we put
Right.
trees or
We
shrubs.
put some
in there.
shrubs in
Put some
there.
shrubs
Yeah.
in there, yeah.
Let me take this one step further. A moment ago, I threw out a fountain. Well, I didn't really expect wouldn't really put a requirement for a fountain. But what I was really getting at as I thought about it was not just taking an open space and throwing in a row of hedges to screen something, but actually creating a little oasis for human habitat where a patient and a visitor, some staff on lunch, or someone walking down Canal Street. Little places on your property, which is beginning to get pretty full now of parking lots and new buildings, and there'll probably be more in the future yet. And perhaps, so I'm suggesting looking at the whole PUD and picking out several places, and that looks like an ideal one right there on the south side by the new parking.
We do have, on the other side of where it says paved drive, you see to the very left there, you see this gravel walk. There is a seating area and garden area we had put in there, I'd say about 6 years ago. That's one such seating area. And then through the generosity of Steve and his wife, we have another one that we just put in off to the new entrance of the hospital by the emergency department. As part of that, we just completed a garden and sitting area there.
Called the Healing Garden.
Healing
I
Garden.
haven't been back there, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and that's just beginning to grow now. It was actually just put in late last fall. So we have made considerations for those. Certainly, we can look on the property for some others. We do have some picnic benches over. It's not shown on this plan, but over toward the between the Richards Building and the main hospital entrance. There's a grassed area, and there's some picnic benches there. There's 3 picnic benches there, and I know that because I often take lunch there. So we do have on that grass area there. So
Yeah.
we do
That's
try to
sort of
make some provisions
exposed,
for that.
isn't it?
Actually, there's a couple of linden trees there, and when they come out, they make for nice shade.
Alrighty.
So should we condition the additional 10 spaces in? We would be looking at 18 plus 6 plus 10. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think that's fine, but there's some question in my mind as whether we can do
Actually
a
do it.
formal conditional approval for something that wasn't warned. I mean, this hasn't crossed my mind yet, Brian. Have you dealt with this issue?
Well, I think if you were to approve this and, this was established, if they came back and said, well, we want to make a minor amendment, that is something where you could authorize me to make that amendment.
Okay.
So I think procedurally.
I'd suggest
consultation with the chair.
that the motion provide for that.
In consultation with the chair.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Who knows why, but
No, so you can get to review it.
yeah, no, I'm joking.
Who knows why? We could make it. Sorry, I'll shut up.
So, having that in mind, Tim, could we add to that motion a condition requiring for EV charging infrastructure consistent with whatever acts are imposed at the state level? And landscape screening the lot from view from Belmont Avenue.
And from the main entrance.
And from the main
Yeah, just-
entrance.
But, so we're going to ask them to resubmit a landscaping plan for approval, administrative approval with consultation with the chair.
Right. And we'll make
And the
that,
additional parking under the same.
yeah. Does that sound like a motion to you?
It does. Did we ask the public to speak to this? I can't remember.
Yes.
We did.
Does anybody want to speak about anything we've talked about since the last time I've asked? You can have your opportunity. Okay. So you're going to make that motion, Tim?
I would like to make that motion, yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve application 2015-53. Sorry.
Just to clarify, could you ask the applicant if there are any changes in the Act 250 impacts from
Oh,
what
yes,
they put
sorry.
on their Form M?
Did you hear the,
I did not hear that, actually.
any question, any changes to your Act 250, what is it, the Form M?
Yeah. Or would there be any changes if
I think
you
the
did
one
this
thing that we
larger?
would have to do, it had to do with the demo, you're talking about the other piece of the puzzle, or you're talking
Yeah.
about the existing application? with respect to the additional 10 spaces, there would need to be, we'd need to look at the garage and any impacts demo of the garage would have on that application as
But
well.
in terms of an amendment to a local Act 250, we have to look at impact on municipal services, so on, so all of that, the four main criteria. This parking does not impact that in any sense.
Yeah, should not. Yeah, it's, we have Form M here. Do you want to go through Form N individually and look at that, or?
The chair, it's up to the chair.
I don't think it's necessary. I'm content to take your representation.
Okay.
The answer is no, the answer is no. Right?
There's no adverse impact, no.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's what we do the oath for, you know? Okay.
So on that basis, I'll make a motion to approve application 2015-53 with the conditions and amendments as discussed relating to landscaping and the additional 10 parking spaces.
Motion is made.
Second?
Seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The next application, and this is the last application, is 2015-54 Leroy Properties. Wow, this is quite a team you've brought. Could you folks, just so we have a record, identify yourself? And I've sworn you all in, right?
Correct.
Okay, could you just say who you all are?
Yes, I'm Terry Bonnet, member of Leroy Properties.
Bruce Bonnet, Leroy Properties.
Steve Bonnet, Leroy Properties.
Okay.
Paul Volaski, Cotton Volaski Architectural Services.
And David Cotton.
Okay. Okay, so who's going to tell us about this project? Or do you each do like one paragraph?
You want us to?
Go ahead, Dave.
Basically, the Bonnet brothers own property in Marlborough Road out in West Brattleboro. And currently, there's a building on there. And they want to add approximately 2,600 square foot.
Sorry.
That's okay. A 2,600 square foot convenience store. And so we've submitted an existing site plan, a proposed site plan. They've received a wastewater permit, which we have, drainage plan, and the exterior lighting. And on the proposed site plan is information that basically comes from the bylaws. The abutters, the property owners, the zoning district, etc. And we can try to answer any questions that you have.
I was curious about the stormwater capacity of this parcel once it's built this way. You're going to be adding some impervious surface here under the plan, right?
Yes, it was engineered by Beck Engineering. And there are some retention ponds within the 500-year flood area behind the building. Right now, that's basically a field back there. And just some of the specifics, it's approximately 3.3 acres. The entire coverage is under an acre. And Beck Engineering designed that drainage system.
And I may have simply missed this. Did they indicate whether it's going to increase the stormwater runoff? I'm sorry, whether it's the retention ponds and the other features will be capable of dealing with the increased stormwater runoff?
As far as I'm understanding, it would.
That was, the design was for that. I mean, we engaged him to design a stormwater
Okay.
Disposal system, therefore the retention ponds.
So, I have some questions about the location of the building, the proposed structure, and the parking in the front of it. Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the front yard setback is a minimum of 20, or is it 20 in the rural commercial now?
20.
It's at 20 or it's minimum 20?
I believe it's a minimum of 20.
Okay. The ordinance also, I believe, defines parking at 80% to side and rear of property. This would not, with your current kind of layout here, that would not conform to that.
Yeah, I think there needs to be less than 20% in the front yard.
Yeah, 20% in front of the building.
So what you're saying is the front 14 parking spaces that we have for the building
Would have to reduce.
Reduce.
And would have to move to the side or the rear. Let's talk about the overall number of spaces. There's a total number of spaces here of
30.
30 for both structures, both the... And the basis for that calculation is...
The requirements for the existing building, from my understanding, is 9. And the requirements for the new building is 14. So there's actually 23 spaces that are required, and we've shown 30. Yes, we've shown more.
Is there a reason for that, or just simply because it fit the shapes of the lots you were creating?
It allowed more flexibility, and convenience, I guess.
What would the effect be of moving the parking that had been designated for the front yard setback to where the present building is and moving the building up west, if you will?
Moving it north?
South. Towards Western Avenue, towards Marlborough Road.
I wouldn't make much of an artillery-man. What I'm suggesting essentially, and this is only a question, not a suggestion really, I'm asking what the effect would be if you essentially flip-flopped the building and the front yard parking so that what was parking in the front yard setback that's currently over the percentage in
the entire parking
ordinance would become behind the building. I'm sorry to ask that in such a convoluted way.
Obviously, some of that is if the parking's in the rear of the building, would anybody go there? That kind of.
Well, the purpose for the ordinance is to bring structures closer to the road, so we don't end up with these distant structures set further back. The purpose of the ordinance was such that we kept a rural feel to it, and not put parking lots out front. And as such, the stipulation is that 80% shall be on the side or the rear. The other thing is, generally speaking, we also don't like an increase above the parking that's required. So, yes, we state, a building of this size with this use has this many parking spaces. There's a formula. A convenience store of this size has so many parking spaces. There's a formula. So we have a formulaic calculation that provides for 23 spaces, as you just stated, in this area. So typically we look for 23 or less, not 23 or more. We try and limit the amount of blacktop, we try and limit the amount of impervious, we try and make things work as effectively as we can with that prescribed parking or less than that parking. So yes, there's a convenient so there's a convenience point to it to have lots of blacktop where people can park kind of more freely, but we tend to try and contain it within the guidelines of the ordinance.
So the spaces 1 through 8, are
Yeah.
those the spaces that you're saying, can we move the building forward? and move
Or
those?
remove.
Or remove, so.
Or remove completely, yeah.
To get to your point. of
To
the
get to
23.
the 23.
Yeah, because if it was 6 out of, it would become 22.
Yeah.
No, you're not quite there, but.
Right. So we
I
have.
mean, we don't. I mean, if you say I would like 23 and I want to push another one to the further to the back, that's fine too. But if we pull those 8 out of the front, then the front parking is going to conform,
Correct. And we'd be down to 22 spaces.
and you'd be down to 22, which would be
Or if we took those and
approximately
slid this
what the
forward,
ordinance
we put
requires.
another 1 or 2
Right.
spaces on the side.
Well, no.
Or we do, the first question is remove the 1 through 8, move the building and the other parking forward.
You don't have to move the building, but you
If we wanted to.
could. If you
move-
wanted to, you
but
could
then-
pull it. You could pull the building a little bit forward, so close to Tomorrow Road.
Right.
As long as you didn't get less than 20.
Although to make the numbers work, they'd have to replace the 8 spaces somewhere.
Why?
Because it would have to be 6 out of 30 total to get down to 20%. You know what I mean?
Well, the prescribed uses get you at 23.
If I may,
No,
Mr. Chair?
let me just
Sure, I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is that, well, I suppose we could grant a waiver.
Yeah.
But what I meant was that they would still be over the 20% in the front yard setback if we didn't replace those spaces somewhere else, because it would become 6 out of 22 rather than 6 out of 30.
Well, 6 out of, okay, it's 25%.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Just as a bit of a clarification, and I haven't looked at the ordinance, it's actually not a convenience store. It's like a restaurant, pizza, takeout, deli. So I'm not sure what the requirements are for that. I don't know if they're the same as a store or not. The other thing is there is
Would there be
ample-
seating?
I'm sorry?
Would there be seating?
There would be limited seating inside, but it's primarily for takeout. But there is seating inside, which I think would add to the requirements for the parking.
It does,
Yeah.
Brian, do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's really to break down the ratio, because I think retail sales, it's 1 space per 200 square feet, and I think for a restaurant, it's 1 per 100 square feet.
Yeah, 1 for 250 for retail, 1 per 100 for restaurants.
So it'd be 26, it would be 26 parking just for that one building then. And there's substantial area out back. So as far as putting some parking out back and even along the side, that wouldn't be an issue, especially out back, so we could reconfigure that.
Right.
But we'd hate to lose the parking, especially since it seems like for this specific use, it's necessary.
Just let me ask one question.
Sure,
though.
go ahead.
I realize that you guys are not the engineer who did the stormwater, but do you know if moving additional parking to the rear, as we're discussing right now, would have an effect on the current stormwater scheme with the swales and retention ponds and so forth?
I think that probably the retention ponds can be reconfigured, or increased, because they're just in the 500-year flood area, so, and that
I mean, it
parking
looks
in the
to me
back
like-
would be closer to the retention ponds.
Okay,
So I think that could be done.
okay.
I'm going to suggest on that front that the overall impervious would not increase. And as we have a scheme here where we're being
From this.
told from this that there is no net increase in flow off the site, then that could be done.
Yeah, and probably we should have as a condition to get something from the engineer simply confirming that it won't make...
So certainly you could move the building forward. If you were to lose spaces, you could pick a number and move the building forward, say 12, actually up to 18 feet, I would think, because you're losing 18 feet of parking.
And then you would have more room in the back.
The parking in the back, some of that would probably be employee parking, more, obviously, something. And we did have the parking on the side, and there'd probably be shared parking with the existing building that's there right now.
Okay.
Where's the 100-year flood line on these plans, you know? Which
On
particular lot
T2,
is-
if you look on T2, I think that's the clearest.
T2?
T2.
Isn't Tom?
It's this dotted line here. Okay,
Oh.
got it. So that's the 100-year? So this is out of the 100-year?
Exactly.
Okay, and do you have an elevation for the ground floor, the base, the floor of that?
The elevation is, what is it?
522.25? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
That's what it said.
And even though you're in the 500 rather than the 100, is this proposal at 1 foot above base flood? The floor level?
Well, the base flood in that area, and again, Paul, is that, it's from here to here.
Right.
It's 5.
Can you read that? Where's the full size one?
It says 515.
515, and then to the left of that is the base that goes right,
520, so
runs right along
it's
my,
about 517.
interpolating that between the two, it might be, if the line goes right back to the building, it's roughly 517, so.
And you're at what? 522?
522. So you're
Okay.
several feet.
Yeah, several feet above. I mean, bearing in mind the not so reasonably recent flood event, it would be
Right.
obvious to raise it to the point where you can and protect against that.
What's good about the property is that it slopes from Western Ave back.
Yeah.
So the ADA compliant ramps, et cetera, worked out pretty well by keeping it at that level, the 520.
And on that basis, the further forward the building comes, the better it gets.
A little bit
To some
better.
degree, maybe
Yeah.
another 6 inches or so.
Exactly, 522 instead
Yeah.
of 522.5.
What's going on in the existing building to the east?
There's a couple of apartments there. Also, there's some indoor storage units. There's a few.
Could I ask you about the connections, the curb cuts with Brookwood? You have one that is an existing driveway, and I think one that'll be a new, is it a new access, or is it one that's existing? That would
Now, Brookwood, those are both existing.
Existing.
Both exist.
Yeah.
Are they both necessary?
Apologize, I'm not sure where you're looking on the plan.
Obama Road.
On
The front or the back?
the back.
The back.
The one
The
on
north side.
This one's not used much. This one still.
Ask you a question about that curb cut too. Are those curb cuts, or are you just, I don't see that as being a curb cut that was built as a drive back there. It looks like you just started driving over it and are now using that. Is that true or not?
My aunt and uncle used to live there in the 60s, and from what I remember, those roads were there. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember. We rarely use those back drives to come around, but they've been in existence for
But you don't
as long as I
really
can
need
remember.
them, do you?
Well, I mean,
second exit out
right.
of the property would be good. This property was owned by Don Record
Yeah.
prior, and in 1994, he submitted an application for a 5,000 square foot building with basically similar kind of things that we're doing right now, where he was granted approval with the wastewater for a 5,000 square foot building. So at that time, because the site plan the existing site plan showed those two locations of driveways coming in.
From a safety aspect, you can get a fire truck in from the back side of that
Right.
if you ever needed to.
I wasn't suggesting to close it off entirely. My thought was that given that it's very heavy and dense residential, that one intersection might be better than two. I don't know if that, but tell me if that creates a problem for the proposed traffic flow or the other uses of the property.
The back of that, there are people from the storage.
Right here.
I think the one on the right-hand side, the east side, that's used probably by people that are bringing storage in.
Yeah, actually
That
here
door.
too. Right? That's the new building. Right here, right?
To here.
Because they come in right there.
So how do you see the circulation on the site working? You see people pulling in off of
Western Avenue parking and for the restaurant or the
From
deli, and
Route 9.
then are they likely to leave through the rear?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
There wouldn't be any incentive. Most people take the easiest route as possible. If they come in on Route 9, especially if there's easy parking in the front of the side of the building, that's how they're gonna exit.
That rear
We-
entrance is much closer to the storage unit.
Part of the project is eliminating there are 2 curb cuts onto Route 9 currently. So actually, we're closing one of those down.
Okay.
So,
And that again was approved
So you're
in
gonna
1994.
what's the width of this curb cut? Like 30 feet, 40 feet, 38 feet, two lane widths.
2 lane widths, yes.
Okay.
And then if you see dotted to the right of that, or east of that, there was a curb cut there, the existing driveway to be removed.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we proceed too much further, though, I just want to get an answer to my entire question. And it's fine if the answer is yes, but do you need both those curb cuts in the back?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm just going to use right and left so I don't embarrass myself again. That's because the right curb cut serves the people who are using the existing building for storage, and the left curb cut will be in essence an exit for the people who live on Brookwood Drive or in the development, and for fire to get into the back of the new building.
That's a fair statement, yeah. And actually, where it says existing driveway, if you're looking from Route 9, it would be on the right. Some people come in that way too to access the storage unit from the back of the property as well.
Okay.
As do we, quite frankly.
Where are the residential apartments in that structure?
In the front of the
back?
building.
In the front of the building.
Toward Route 9.
And the proposal for them to park is in spaces 22 and up, right there?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Am I correct that you would not allow trailer trucks to come in here and park in what I'm calling the fire entrance to the new unit?
You are very correct on that
Right.
statement. Yes.
And that through traffic would be prohibited so they don't use the thing like a big circuit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In the interior plan,
Yes.
you have an ADA compliant bathroom, right? Correct.
Yes.
And you said something about ramps, but are they on, I didn't see any on the plan.
It's not a ramp, it's a level entrance, so that,
It's a level.
it's a level entrance, so that, yes, so it does comply with ADA, but
Okay.
yes, it was easy to make it level with the parking area.
What color is this building going to be?
Red.
Barn red.
White trim.
Barn red?
Barn red, white trim,
Trying to keep-
asphalt shingle roof that looks...
Charcoal colored.
The slatey roof.
Okay.
Trying to keep the character.
Red, just like the
I've-
house that's there now.
Have we addressed barn red as far as these regulations out there go?
I don't think it's strictly what we asked for, but
So the section 2349D7 requires that facade colors be neutral or earth tone. Now, I like barn red
Barn
myself.
red is earth tone.
I think
The adjacent structure is barn
The
red.
existing
I
house.
think you could very reasonably make the argument that barn red is effectively an earth tone.
Perfect.
But, I mean, we should talk about that and make that clear on the record that we're making that distinction here, because it's close to the wording of the statute.
I've often thought regulation should go more on either a reflective light criteria, which would be all colors, but not with a greater reflectance of a certain amount of,
Right.
because that's what you're trying to avoid is bright white, bright yellows, but.
I want to be clear, we're not taking an expansive definition of barn red, right? You know, like those barns up in Montreal or something.
As far as the creative design of the building, we were the architects that did the Leader Home Center building.
Right.
So
It'll be
we're
the same
trying
barn
to-
red as the long building that's
Yes.
there presently.
And we're
Right.
trying to keep the buildings there looking like maybe they were there. It was a barn that got converted.
It's a very similar structure
Yeah.
in terms of its look.
Could you provide us with some details on the proposed sidewalk?
The sidewalk is shown that it's in the plan, and it will be constructed if that's what you wanted according to your guidelines.
Town
Town of Brattleboro specification.
If it's
We
5
were
feet
thinking
wide.
that it might be a gravel or stone, packed stone path because of their various rights of ways and that, so.
So I'm going
As
straight
opposed to
from
concrete.
the section you have to be compliant with is 2349D4. I don't have this memorized, but I thought it was 6-inch deep concrete. You tell me if I'm wrong,
It
Brian.
is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's 4 feet wide, 6-inch deep concrete is the town requirement.
What do we have for utilities running along the front there?
Excuse me?
What do we have? What are there for utilities running along the front there?
There's water and sewer.
Water and sewer, yeah.
Pleasant Valley doesn't. It comes further down with the main inn. Yeah. It might come off of Westgate. The tanks at the top. Just just from personal experience that we don't really encourage building a 6-inch thick concrete, 4 foot wide, if it goes right over the top of the town's water main or the town sewer. Because if they ever have to fix it, they're going to have to dig up your concrete
So,
pathway.
could we,
So I would just ask where they were. I haven't
There is
checked
a
on the
portion
plan.
on the sheet, WW1, on that sheet, there is a portion, yes, of the sidewalk that goes under an existing sewer line.
Is that where the fire hydrant is? If you want to just come up and point to it.
So you can see that the sidewalk is right
request a waiver to do
Yeah.
stone
Oh,
So there is the character.
and this water too, right?
Right, and the water.
I think you miss it, don't you? Does this
I've
plan
got a
just
brother,
about? Yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah, but it's not going to miss that water.
Mr. Chair, based on your comments and to keep with the character of the neighborhood, would it be possible to request a waiver to go with, stone as opposed to the concrete then? I think it would look better.
Gravel and stone path.
Yeah.
Black stone dust path.
Is there presently a sidewalk there that ends on either side?
No.
No, there isn't.
And we have that island of sidewalk somewhere just to the east, right? Or west? East.
Yeah.
In front of Cumberland Farms.
In front of Cumberland Farms.
Yeah.
Right.
Commercial.
I see pedestrians there all the time, and any sidewalk would be a real improvement over what we have, which is nothing. I don't know, what does the board think about that?
I like it, but I don't know why the original plan called for concrete.
Yeah.
No, that's town specification. for
Yes.
sidewalk. It's a global specification. Whether you're
Okay.
building it in Main Street or you're building it in West Pratt, it's the same specification. I mean, it's also so that you can't put 3-inch concrete there and have it all break up and crack the first time we get a winter. It defines a certain depth and size and width for a typical sidewalk.
Mr. Bannon, I think, has some guidance for us.
Sure. Well, it actually calls for a sidewalk or an off-road path. And
Oh, okay.
I think if they're different things, then maybe a path is a little bit less formal and less concrete.
Right. I
Could we
think
re-
if it was non-concrete, we would want it to be something like SurePack that's not
Right.
gonna, get neglected and turned back into what it is right now.
Sure.
Is that what you would use?
Yes.
Certainly, we could use that, absolutely. It would look a lot better than concrete.
Right.
So do we have to call it a path?
I think, the way I
Yeah.
envision it is simply that the condition would be that it be a 4 foot by 6 inch. What's the standard depth of SurePack to be?
I don't know, 5, 6 inches, yeah.
So call it 4 feet by 6 inch SurePack based path. We make that a condition. I think it would be compliant with the requirements of statute.
I think we had.
There are no real slopes there, right?
Slopes.
No.
Yeah, it's basically a flat
Yes.
sidewalk.
It's pretty level.
Yeah, so we don't really have to worry
The
about
kids in
erosion.
Lake could actually play in the back field, which is probably size of a football, but that's almost an acre.
Right.
And then between the sidewalk and the road, it calls for a buffer zone. Should be included for new sidewalk and or passing. What's a buffer zone? we're expecting that to be landscape or grass or?
I think, doesn't that just mean it shouldn't be right on the road?
Yeah, so what do you put between the path and the road? A buffer zone.
My expectation is it's already grass.
It's already long.
It is.
So,
And it's not right on the edge of the road.
so you're putting a path, say you're putting a pathway that's set some distance back from the road, so there's a buffer between the traffic and children on bicycles.
Yes.
And that buffer is defined here, I mean, it's looking like it's 4 to 6 feet. Between the pathway and the road and grass.
From the, you talk about the walkway to the road?
Yeah.
Is about 10 feet.
10 feet.
Even
down here.
Even on the eastern portion where it hugs the road,
On
it's tighter
that
than-
portion, yes, it's less. But of course, this is on paper, and that can be moved, so it's 10 feet continuous from the property line.
Yeah, so just that there's grass between the pathway and there's a verge.
I think 10 feet is a good safe distance unless you guys tell me there's a reason that creates a burden.
Could we say 8 feet or greater?
Yes.
8 feet sounds fine to me. Anybody have any objection to 8? Robert Wadlow. Okay. I had a couple questions about the lighting. Are you okay moving on?
Yeah, lighting would be good.
There were some bollard lights, 5 LED bollard lights. And do you know what I'm talking about, Christian?
I do know what you're talking about, and
Can you give us a
thought
little
we
more?
took them out.
we thought we took them out.
Oh,
They should
okay.
not be on there.
Okay.
We started thinking about plowing.
Well, not as in low level?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we have 20-foot high ones?
2 20-foot high ones.
Can we reduce the height of the 20s?
Excuse me?
Could we reduce the height of the 20s and get the coverage that's needed? I'm not sure where they are on the plan.
I'd have to go back and research how much lower to give the coverage we want.
I'm sure that 20 is permissible within the district, but if we can get them to 15 rather than these huge.
Well, one is between the building, the existing building, so if you look on the site plan there, you can see it, and one is between the larger trees on the front.
One is between parking space 26 and 27, and the other one is between 4 and 5.
Teacher.
WW1. It's over there.
Oh, is it there too?
Here's one. Here's
So if you move those parking spaces 1 through 8, that light will move, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, it depends on whether we move the building up or whether we split the difference, and so the light would probably move some to the north, which would be further away from the road, right?
If you moved parking spaces to the back, you might want a third light, right?
If you move parking space to the back, I agree, for
Yes.
safety as much as anything.
I mean, if we're asking them to move parking
Yep.
spaces, we may want to address that. And I think that would simply be that it be consistent with these other lights within the height requirements, downward facing LEDs that are shielded.
Yep.
I assume that's no problem.
Correct.
And am I correct that it would probably be located just above where the writing is for the condenser unit here?
Yes.
Or wherever the edge of the parking lot came to be?
Right.
Yes.
That the pole would be, the light pole?
Yeah,
The light pole would, oh yes, above north of the, yes.
in the ballpark.
Yes,
I realize
yes.
that if you change parking spaces down there, it'll move to the east.
Right.
But, or
To the north.
I would question the following, is that, let's say, surmise some things, is that the parking at the front is reduced and they elect to bring the building forward a little bit. And that 8 spaces go around to the back, which will primarily be staff spaces, I'm going to assume, because they're around the back and not on the side and not on the front. Conceivably, building lighting or something just from the building rather than a pole may be adequate to light the back entrance and the 8-10 spaces at the back. I wouldn't necessarily stipulate they have to have a pole back there at this point. I think that's a design consideration when you move the elements around.
The back of the building has the roof that cantilevers out, it's sloped like that, and it cantilevers out 4 feet, and there are lights underneath that 4 feet.
Lighting down.
Lighting down, down lighting.
But
I
it
would
would,
think we gave you a cut sheet of that. So that lighting, while the building is occupied, while it's open, those lights would be on.
Maybe adequate.
Yeah.
Again, the goal of the board is to minimise the amount of light that we have. I mean, where it's necessary for safety or security, that's fine. You know, I mean, even to the extent, I think, to give it a little example, like Cumberland Farms, just on the other side of the border there, is that they're supposed to or should turn their canopy lights off when the gas station closes. I'm not sure they do, but they're supposed to. And the same with Dollar General down the other end. They're supposed to turn their sign light off when the store's closed. And the whole purpose of this is to reduce the kind of the impact of lighting on the environment and the people that live around it or can see it. So if we don't have to have a pole on the back to light 8 spaces, the board would be quite happy, I think, not to have a pole. Just to do it with light on the building or light that falls out of the building that gives you adequate coverage there.
And I think if it's employee parking, that there'll be lights on out there as they walk to their cars.
Yeah.
that's good, perfect.
There's no new landscaping proposed at the moment, right?
Other than the rain garden in the front, which now could actually be somewhat minimized.
Right, but apart from things that are really stormwater elements.
Correct. There's nothing else proposed. There are some large existing trees along Route 9 and along Mountain Drive.
And in front of the building, we're showing some juniper.
Right, in the rain garden, right.
Yeah.
So, this is not me, but this is the law. It requires that the plantings on the site include a diversity of flower, shrubs, and bushes, evergreens, and other perennials. Can you describe what's there now? And if it meets that definition, tell us how.
There were these large maples that surround the property, basically.
Okay. Okay, we got some flowers somewhere?
We'll put some in. I hate to hear you say that because my girlfriend is a landscaper, so you just really opened the door.
I have a list of stuff he's already proposed.
Can we put a lot of flowers?
Trust me, she will put a lot of flowers. We did 9 yards of mulch this weekend, so.
But she can do a quick landscaping plan provided to the administrator.
Yeah, she can.
One of the things that we do have along the front of the building, we have a porch, and there is a railing there, not required, but there is a railing again to give it a look. So there could be some hanging units there that have in the summer, especially some flowers. I don't know about in the winter.
I think what we'll do is just add a condition requiring a plan, and the administrator can review it and review whether it's consistent with the language I just explained. It sounds like you're very well equipped.
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, you know. Do you know more about the design of the rain gardens than their rain gardens and the engineer told us they're sufficient?
See the detail there?
The concept that I understood that the engineer was doing, and I apologize that we didn't have him and her here, was that there was going to be a slight pitch to the front parking lot that was going to go into where we mentioned there was juniper wood, and that was going to drain into a pipe that brings the water back to the ponds. And those ponds are, from what I understand, not really noticeably, they're not deep, they're just sort of swales in the ground.
Right.
D1, page D1, which is 4 pages in from the back.
Yep.
There's sort of a typical rain garden detail that the engineer has provided. It sort of shows a tree, but there wouldn't be a tree, so.
Native species suitable for conditions.
I believe that's, yeah. Plant native species, yeah, suitable for conditions.
Okay. This is Matt Beck that did this?
Yes.
I suppose I should disclose, I don't think it's a conflict, but my firm retained him in a case like 5 years ago. I no longer have any common economic interest with him and see no conflict of interest, but
I think it was actually Jessica Rizzio that did the design who works there with him.
Oh. I'm only doing this to keep a clean record in case
Yep.
somebody makes an issue of it.
Actually, on that basis, I have retained him at various times to do surveying work and/or I hadn't even thought about it. But this is not the applicant.
Yeah, right.
It's the engineer the engineer's company that's done the plans. There is no economic interest either. I think I paid him.
You feel comfortable?
I
that
feel
you can
very
be-
comfortable. Yeah.
Okay.
What does the board feel? I mean, there are some potentially substantial changes occurring here with this site plan, as in moving the structure and changing parking. And do you feel we should?
I was going to suggest we have Beck submit something in addition if there are these
Calculations.
kinds of changes,
Yeah.
just to make clear for the administrator that there are still no, that the provisions to handle stormwater still can with whatever movement they make. Is that okay with you think? I mean, I think that'd do the trick.
If we're moving the building up and putting parking spaces in the back, we'd have to go back to Beck Engineering to make
Yeah.
sure this change will conform.
Right, okay. The condition I'm proposing would just be that he submit something to the zoning administrator that'll confirm that whatever arrangement he's made will handle that stormwater from the impervious surfaces. So we have section 2349D, which requires when there are multiple buildings on a lot in a rural commercial zoning district, there be a common space centrally located. It's supposed to be connected by pedestrian walkways and should have a landscaped area or a plaza with seating and a focal feature.
23 what?
2349D, 10 I think. I did notice that there's a grassy area that appears to already be abutted by a walkway. And I'm sure that if you placed a little bench or two there, I think you'd be close to conforming with the language.
Placed what?
A bench?
A bench, you see, a bench, you see, a bench, a picnic table, something like that.
Picnic table would work.
We do have picnic tables, Mr. Chair. As you're looking at the building on the left side, there'll be some picnic tables there, if
Right.
that conforms.
I think
The-
the ordinance requires it be more central to the existing.
Gotcha. We could put them on the other side as well.
Grassy.
The reason I say this
Sure.
is because that walkway that appears to already be there,
Yeah,
that connection is a requirement for the common area.
yeah. We can add picnic tables there, no problem.
Or a
Okay.
bench,
Or
whatever.
a bench, sure, either way.
Would you just be good enough to give me 2349D what?
X, 10.
Or D10? I wonder who was on the planning commission when this was done.
It was before my time. It was one of the last things they did before I got on. This was the segue into the fluvial erosion hazard zone proposal, which I'm sure you remember. Or maybe you don't.
I do.
Maybe the trauma erased that memory.
No, I remember it well.
I mean, I think Ms. Hasegawa just suggested that simply because it makes sense with the plan that you have here. If you have some alternative that you think would satisfy that language.
That makes sense.
Mr. Chair,
That
sorry.
makes sense.
49D's point 3 suggests that either a landscaped area with multiple trees or a plaza with seating and a focal feature, such as a pond, fountain, spoon.
Oh my God.
This is prescriptive.
There it is.
We were on an earlier application. You were foreseeing things.
Can you put a little fountain in?
We can put a sculpture in.
I would
Sculpture.
stay away from fountains.
Sculpture.
They freeze.
Yes.
some focal point that, just do something fun.
Big picture of my brother Terry.
If you consider that fun.
I don't.
We'll put a sculpture in.
Just something that.
The only other,
Put a sculpture in.
so the only other note I have is that there be a construction application to the Division of Fire Safety.
Yes, there was, yes, that has to be done.
That ends my sort of lengthy inquiry. Do other members of the board have things they want to talk about here?
No.
I just want to clarify a couple things. This building is going to be, you said it originally when you came in, a convenience store. Your application says restaurant, and I look at it, the picture, or the drawing, you've got 6 seats in a really big room. Is it going to be a restaurant?
It's going to be a restaurant. It's going to be pizza, deli, takeout, convenience. Terry's daughter is a tremendous baker, so there's going to be bakery products in there. There will be some seating, but primarily it's going to be for takeout. People are coming home or traveling through, they can stop and get a ready-cooked meal or chop suey or baked beans or pulled pork or whatever. So the focal will be primarily takeout, even though there will be some seating, yes.
Okay, so you're not going to have shelves of potato chips and bread?
No, not at all. We will have some Vermont products in there, maybe maple syrup, things of that nature, but no, it's not a convenience store.
But the application is for restaurant deli as opposed to convenience store or neighborhood store or...
Correct.
You're going to prepare food and seat people and serve it?
Correct.
Okay. I have a question for you.
You're not seating people.
Well, there's going to be, we're not
seating them?
bringing them to a seat. There's open space that they can sit.
Oh, they could sit?
They can sit if they want to, yes.
And we're not really serving, it's a
So there's no
takeout.
waitress service, it's...
Right.
No.
It's go to a counter, order something.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And either leave or...
Yes.
Sit
Or
down.
they could sit out on the porch or on the
Or,
picnic
okay,
tables.
good.
Yeah.
What's the height of this building?
Under 35 feet.
Under 35 feet, thank you.
Yes.
Good answer.
There will be milk and bread.
And there was some mention earlier about the cupolas having lighting in them.
The overhangs?
The cupolas on the top.
Yes.
Having lighting in them.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Soft accent lighting.
Soft accent lighting. Okay.
Yes.
All lighting in the district shall be downcast and not shine off the site. So that's the definition. So if it's soft mood lighting, I think you. But if you have spotlights up there
No.
that are going to blind people driving down
No.
Marlborough Road, if it's just a question of accenting the building, that's fine. In the
That's
same
what-
way that you have lighting under the porch.
Right, that's how we want
So
it.
it's soft and indirect, even though the cupolas are a little bit more
Right.
direct.
If I could just clarify something, I was pointed out to my brothers that we plan on selling beer, perhaps soda, takeout,
Yeah, just
possibly
staples, there
milk.
might be milk, bread, that kind of stuff.
In the coolers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not really a convenience store, but some staples items.
This is not a conditional use, is it?
No, I mean, I think it doesn't really matter whether it's a restaurant or convenience store, right? Yeah, it's
Except for
same set of standards. Well, except for the parking ratio, yeah.
And I still have a little bit of a concern about having 2 curb cuts into a residential area. And that's just kind of sticking in my craw.
At the rear?
At the rear, you know.
Is there any potential for both of those driveways to use a single curb cut? That is, that they be divided within the
Yeah.
property?
One of the ones in the back is for the.
These two right here.
This one.
Right.
That's
Can we
not
do
really
away with
driveway.
that?
That's really far actions, that's for the gas truck, they get in there, they go through, they fill gas.
He's referring to the plan where it says existing building, and then to the right from Route 9, it says existing driveway. The
Yep.
one on the right doesn't go around the building. It's primarily for gas
Yeah,
deliveries.
and for our use to go to the garage and that there's a garage back there that we use. We store mowers and stuff in.
So it's not, is it not
Yeah,
public use?
it's a driveway
Not
more than
public
a.
You'd be comfortable putting up a sign that would limit the public from using?
Oh,
the
yeah.
curb
Oh, yeah,
cut?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not-
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
through street.
Comfortable putting it up a?
They don't use it now,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
the electric company reads the meters back there.
Yeah.
It's access for them in the wintertime when it's snows, we plow that out.
You'd be happy to put a sign, no public access or
Oh, sure.
use.
Is that satisfactory to you, George?
Thank you.
Talking about signage, there's no signage application in here.
There's not.
Apart from you're showing a sort of a detail on the front of the building that says,
There's an existing sign, but they plan to come back and.
Right, there is an existing sign, and we're gonna come back to you with a permit to change that to the requirements of the
okay,
town.
that could be done administratively anyway, unless you want to, you're not putting up
No.
big signs.
Eat here, eat here, eat here.
Brian's very good
I'm
with
telling
signage. He'll make you hand carve it from wood.
We'd actually like that.
I'm conscious of the members of the public here. Are
It's
we?
all right.
No, it's okay. I just
Being a
wanna-
bit flippant.
I want to know. No. I just want to let them speak.
Okay, sure.
If there's no more from us. Members of the public? Could you just, when you come to the microphone, say what your name is, and if you're in a butter, say where that is that you live.
My name is Nancy Rose. I live at 89 Glen Street in Brattleboro. I am president of the Tri-Park Board and thus very interested in this meeting tonight. I came at first thinking I was concerned with the floodway issues and the fact that a corner of yours was connected into the 100 to 500 year floodplain. But actually, as I'm listening to you, I need to be concerned for residents that you're not talking about. You've done a great job of addressing the view from Marlborough Road. But what about those people who happen to live behind there? I did not hear any line of trees, and I'm beginning to hear about, and I need clarification right now. Are you talking about bringing people out with 2 curb stops onto Brookwood? I'm sitting in the back and I really don't have a map and I'm not hearing or understanding that part of the conversation. Can I ask right now for clarification?
Yeah, what we're suggesting is that they close. What this would do would be to create a new curb cut so that there would be 2, and because of our concern over that, the existing one would no longer be open to the public, so that the only access open to the public would be a single curb cut.
Okay, a single curb cut coming out onto Brookwood?
Coming out onto Brookwood. Yeah.
Okay, who plows Brookwood? Who owns Brookwood?
I assume that you guys do.
So if it's a private road and we plow it, do we not get input?
Yes, you do.
That's my point. You've created something from the one end, a business, without consulting residents that live all along that strip, and I'm just ballparking it between 16 and 20 people between Winding Hill and those who are still on Brookwood.
I have a quick question for you, Nancy. Is Brookwood is a private road?
Yeah.
It's owned by Tri-Park or? All right. And
Plowed by Tri-Park, yes.
sorry?
Plowed by Tri-Park.
Plowed by Tri-Park, okay.
Maintained by.
So there's an existing access there now into this property?
It's right away.
Not that I'm aware of.
Hold on.
1 second.
Is this road public or private?
Pardon me?
Is this road public or private?
All the Tri-Park roads are private.
It's private, okay.
We own them as shareholders.
So
Okay, I
what you're
just-
asking, if I'm hearing you right, is you would like to see the new structure screened from Brookwood?
Well, at first, the number of things that you're mentioning, number one is lighting. The present lighting is not an issue, but how far back is the lighting going to go that would affect people who sit or live in those rows of houses back there?
From what they're describing, the lighting will get nowhere near those buildings.
That's good. I appreciate that.
Could, just before we move on to the next issue, could one of the applicants address the screening from the Brookwood side?
Certainly, thank you. There are several trees as shown on the plan, and I know you haven't had the benefit of looking at the plan, so I can show it to you here. But And you should be familiar with it anyway, because there's several trees that run right along the back property line here.
And this is the driveway.
This is the existing.
Right, and there is a right-of-way for that existing drive.
That's an existing.
For trucks to be able to
Right.
bring gas.
This is gonna be no public access anymore, so they'll shut that one off.
Would it be much
So how
trouble?
much traffic do we increase here?
I wouldn't expect you to have any, quite frankly, because the whole point of this is to have people come off Route 9, come in here, and they're gonna go the easiest way out.
And your delivery trucks come anywhere?
They're gonna come in up Route 9.
Okay, same way.
And the dumpster is being
Gentlemen,
screened.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Sorry.
be a pest. No, there's a microphone right there, first of all, it's picking up what you're saying, but people watch this on TV, and I just want to make sure they hear what she's saying and your responses. No, that's all right.
Nancy, you also have your back to the camera, so not
We
the...
don't want to deprive the people of Brattleboro of the effect of your remarks.
If you, may I suggest, if you finish looking at the plan, it's better if you return to the microphone up front and then direct your questions to the chair.
I'm going to give her my
Sorry.
copy.
Actually,
Good, I'm going to give you my copy, and that way you can look at it while you're at the microphone. And then this will be organized a little bit better for the TV. So,
So to back up, my concern was first to find out where your delivery trucks were coming in, and if you're saying they're coming in the front way, that's no problem for us. Do you anticipate any increased traffic flow across Brookwood?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
We actually don't want them to go there. We'll do our best to make sure that we're back out.
Good. And the next thing you brought up was three swale-like areas of water. Could you define what that looks like for me?
if you go, I think 3 pages forward from where you are. I'm sorry, 1 page forward from where you are, where it says WW1 in the bottom right corner. It looks like there's 3 kidneys towards the area of that driveway. Can you see that?
Tripod should have received the whole package.
We did.
No.
There's air above.
So your 3 areas are about 10 by 10? Am I clear on that? With an anticipated depth?
The depth is not, it's very shallow, it's just the fact that it drains very fast. So that water can flow into it. It may even be at grade.
Yeah, I think they basically dig a hole and fill it with pervious stuff. Is that right?
So that when everything drains from the parking lot into there, but then that, you know, in a heavy storm, but then it goes right into the ground.
So it's not actually going to flow
So
anywhere else off the property?
It's not a pond or, you know.
Thank you for that clarification. I was concerned for the children that live down there.
Is it mulch on top, or what's going to be
It's usually planted.
planting or something?
Yeah, rain gardens are usually planted.
Yeah, there's topsoil.
Topsoil and lots and
Yeah.
planted.
And then underneath you have...
Maybe the better way to add this is this. Is a child can walk on this rain garden safely?
Yeah, I think the perception when you say detention pond, you think it's a pond, there's water in it and this and that and it's deep. That's not the case. All it is for groundwater runoff, so it can permeate into the soil. That's all. It's not deep. I can't tell you what the materials are. They're looking at the plan right now.
Okay, but basically it's dug out and refilled with other materials that would absorb water. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
I had a question related to one of your earlier comments. On the Brookwood side of the building, I think they're going to be able to see the screening of the dumpster, and while screening is better than dumpster, it might be nice to put
Some
a
planting
shrub,
in front
a tree, just something so that they don't have that behind the building stuff viewable.
Yep.
Is that okay for landscaping?
That's fine. Yeah.
And eventually, I'm just going to reference a landscaping plan, and this is on the record as one of the things we
Yep.
want in the landscaping
Sure.
plan. Okay. Sorry. Please continue.
You can come back and talk again if you wish to.
I swore you in, right?
No.
Oh, can I just swear you in?
You may, unless my
Let me put her at the microphone and I'm going to retroactively swear you in, which I sometimes criticize people for doing, but
And the
there's
same for
no
Mary.
choice. So I'm going to change this a little bit. Do you swear that the testimony you've given tonight has been the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? That is, if anything here was a lie, you swear now, or you take responsibility now that you could be liable for perjury. Okay. You can only swear for yourself. Okay. And did I swear you in?
I do.
Okay. So this is what you're going to say. It's under the same oath that you heard me give her. Okay.
Yes.
If you just say who you are and where you live.
I'm Mary Derland. I live at 93 Glen Street. I'm part of Tri-Park. They say that God is in the details. The devil is
The
also
devil's in the details.
in the details. I guess this is an appeal to conscience and to vision, as opposed to strict regulation. You have dozens of homes on the border of this project, and they will be looking at it, and they will be experiencing the traffic that comes as a result of it. Bruce was so kind as to inform me as to his vision, Bruce Bonnet, of what it was going to be, which is not a convenience store. I don't think, in my opinion, that Western Avenue needs another convenience store. But he even mentioned local healthy food. Yes, yes, affordable local healthy food. That sounds really great. So we hope it is those things. Now, if you look at this is the back of the building. And I must say, from the Lederer building, you design very attractive buildings. But it's still the back of the building, which is what, over a dozen homes are going to be looking at. And there are things such as fences, dumpsters, delivery trucks. Ask yourselves, would I want that in my front yard? Now, I'm not saying don't go ahead with this, but I am saying that you have to change some things around already because of parking. I have seen your proposed, what do they call them, the ponds, the
Retention ponds.
retention ponds. I've seen them in other places. They're sort of okay. I'm wondering, this is all draining into the whetstone. We at Tri-Park know what it means to have added things draining into the whetstone, and I'm sure you do too, because you have your property next door. Permeable paving, everything possible that can be done so that the water absorbs. I don't see everything possible here. As I said, this is appeal to conscience, to vision, to doing things not just that are possible under present regulation, but that are really, really right. So I hope that this project goes ahead, and I hope that it is attractive from all sides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just clarify. You don't have to stay up here. I'm just going to speak for your benefit, whatever you're more comfortable with. What we spoke of before with requiring an updated stormwater plan. That stormwater plan requires that there not be an increase in net stormwater. And what the engineer here is going to have to certify to the town, to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator, is that after this building is built, what that means is that after this building is built, that the runoff is no different than when this was a patch of grass, or whatever it is at the moment.
I believe technically that the present plan may respond adequately to that. In reality, I don't think it is everything possible that can be done.
With respect to her comments about the back of the building, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that her objection to the way it looks here is that it's kind of a long expanse without much busyness or detail to be broken up. Are there shrubs or bushes or maybe a couple of trees that you could put between those two doors to give it a little more character, so it's not simply the back of the building?
I think if we're moving parking back there, some parking, I think we're going to have screening
Okay.
on the other
On
side.
the north side of the parking that would
So
screen
that-
the parking and the back of the building.
Right, so what they might see is just some,
If you could do one more thing too, and that is place some kind of a light barrier, whether a fence of some sort or a thick hedgerows, at the end of the driveway coming in, just so the people living on the street don't constantly get headlights in their front windows.
I think they. What's on the two sides? Are there two trees on the two sides of the driveway now?
There are off of Route 9, yeah.
Are they low enough that they would provide some shielding? I meant the Brookwood, the proposed new driveway on Brookwood, the way it looks.
there's some maples.
So it's two trunks.
So that in the winter.
Yeah, one of the, clearly the issue here is that if you're pulling off Western Avenue, Marlborough Road, into the parking lot,
Right.
then your headlights are pointing directly back across the property in the direction of Brookwood and any houses on the back of Brookwood. So conceivably, once you've realigned your parking and moved things around, then at the direct
Once you have
rear
the
end,
driveway.
so that once you have that driveway established, that the rear end of that driveway, it's substantial landscaping that breaks up, or stops those headlights, diffuses those headlights, stops them going right through into the properties of people who are living across the other side of Brookwood.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not the landscaper, but I think if you do some shrubs, because at a house I had, my neighbor took his trees down. I put some, I want to say pine, but maybe they weren't hemlock, but they grow up like shrubs, and that would screen it, and they don't go off in the wintertime, so it would be, okay, sure.
Because it's 140 feet from the end of that park to Brookwood, and then there are some trees along Brookwood too, so. Existing trees, large existing trees.
And I guess in between the trees, there could be.
Just so that we don't have the last thing we want is to have everybody come calling Brian up, going, we get the headlights in our living room window all night long, and this is unacceptable. We don't want to go there. So if we just provide for it now.
Yep.
Well, and you're going to plant in that grassy area, right, that we talked about, that's going to have you're going to put the statue in.
Well, that's
So that should, if you put shrubs or stuff back there as well, it should
take
also help screen.
Sure.
Did we ever resolve the question? Never mind, I'm sorry. I see there's another member of the public who wishes to speak. Come on up.
I haven't been sworn in.
Okay, so raise your right hand. Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I did.
Thank you.
I live in the
Just say
park.
who you are.
Sure. I live in the park. I don't live at Brookwood there. And I live up at Deepwood, which you would think that this wouldn't affect. But it does. There's not very much land around there. And like they're gonna take away the big beautiful tree they got there. You know, maybe they could plant it back so we still would have use of that, you know.
Which tree are you talking about?
Oh,
It's
The one in the middle.
a big birch, this big beautiful birch tree.
Oh, okay.
You know, it gives it landscaping, you know.
If you move that forward, we may not touch it.
Right. If the building gets moved forward, that tree might.
Or
if it doesn't. If it doesn't.
But it's, you said it's diseased and dying.
It
as
is diseased and dying, and quite frankly,
It is?
part of the point of having a business on Route 9 is to allow the public to see it. When you go up that whole corridor, I don't see a whole bunch of trees, you know, denying visibility from Route 9.
I think that's behind the building.
It's
the one she's
behind it.
referring
Yeah,
to.
well,
It's back here.
Yeah.
Well, she was talking about, I thought she was talking about up front. There's a number of trees,
No, she's-
in back of the building
She's
that
talking about this
separate
tree right
that.
here.
One of those trees. Yeah, that's not the rotten, that one is.
Oh, yeah,
we
that
may
has
not
to-
even touch it if we move the building
It's this
forward.
big beautiful
Yeah,
one that's right in the
Oh, okay.
middle.
And if we have to move the building forward, we may
Yeah.
not even.
Depends on the parking, though.
Well, that's,
Right. I mean,
Okay.
the thing is, you know, there's 3 buildings down the road that are now vacant, which only a quarter of a mile, you know, big Mr. G's and the canoe place and, you know, and then you go and build extra
I'm vacant.
stuff, you know, in this one little spot of greenery that they have to look at, you know, and, you know, I just don't understand why they don't use existing buildings, but they just keep on taking away the little bit of landscaping greeneries that we have. I mean, I travel up and down Winding Hood every day, I mean, several times a day, and that's one thing I see is that beautiful tree. I mean, it's beautiful. And I don't mean to get emotional, but, and also the smell from the rubbish thing. I mean, if you start putting food in there, I know because when I go over to Chelsea Royal, there are dumpsters there, because there's food in there, it reeks, especially in the summertime. I mean, what are you gonna do about the smell of that food that goes in there? I mean, it's gonna be right on like Winding Hill Road almost, just on the corner there. And everyone's gonna, you know, smell it. And it's not gonna be very appealing to our area. And, you know, and about what you're saying about that road that only, you know, certain trucks go in there. I see people going in and out of there all the time. I mean, it's not just your use, and I'm sure people, if they go into that restaurant there, they're gonna go back there. What's gonna stop them from leaving out the back entrance? And you know, and there's always kids playing out there in that, you know, area. So I just feel that it's gonna be so congested, and like they said with the lights and stuff, and those trees in the back, you say there's trees aligned there, but there's nothing blocking any kind of lights that go back there. I mean, they're trees, yeah, the trunk of the tree, but any kind of leaves are further up. It's not gonna stop anything. I mean, and we see this every day going in and out of our entrance. I mean, I just feel that, you know, they're not gonna just go in from the front and just go there. They're gonna come around and use our property to go in and out exit places.
Why do you think that people would go around
Well, go out the back.
I don't mean to misunderstand you, but why do you think people would rather go out the back?
Traffic, well, if there's, traffic going, a lot of traffic there, people might go around, I just don't know. But I do feel that they should do a lot of landscaping. I mean, people, that's what we see, and also the rubbish thing. I know that thing stinks when there's all this food and stuff in there. I don't know if they have special things that they can deal with that to reduce odor or do something, but.
I'm gonna ask them about that. I just want to address your broader concerns about why there's this new building rather than using the other building. In this zoning district, the uses that they propose for this building are what are called permitted uses, which limits our discretion. We can't say you can't build a building to do that there, really. We can address the landscaping considerations and traffic flow and pedestrian safety and stormwater issues and the effect on the abutting homeowners and all those things. But we don't have the power to say you can't build a building there and use it for that. It's just not the way the laws that we are enforcing are written.
Well, they wouldn't let us keep our buildings.
I was not on this board if it ever came before us, and I don't know.
Yeah, we lost 23 trailers so far.
Oh, you're talking about after the flood?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't think that ever came before us.
So, that's thousands and thousands of dollars of income, and of course my rent has gone up, so.
That's a whole different set of laws
Right,
and
but
a totally
I'm just saying,
different.
you said you can't.
It's
flood zone, so I don't know why they're being allowed to, build there anyway.
Well, because they're complying with the rules about building there. All we do is enforce the town ordinances, and there are some here that we had to talk about because this plan doesn't precisely conform with them. And if they had not conformed, or if it had been in a flood zone and we had to address those and the building didn't meet the ordinances, it would have been something we would have asked them about, and if they weren't going to make changes, we would have had to deny the application. But the way it is right now satisfies the ordinances as they're written, so unless we find something that we missed, we don't have any power if they're following the law. Can you talk about the dumpsters and the smell?
We'll just make sure they don't. I don't know what they have to put in them or whatever, but obviously we'll make sure that's not, we don't want it to smell either. We're gonna be serving food right there, so.
Right.
And as far as the traffic goes, we sit there every day, my brother and I. You know who uses that entrance the most? The people from Brookwood Drive are going through there all day long. I rarely ever see anybody go that way. Now, of course, we put a business, there's people we're gonna, encourage them to go the other way. But right now, it's the park that uses that road more than anybody does.
Okay, so like he was saying.
And we can add a condition to this permit that the rubbish not smell so much that it impacts the butters.
Right, because I know even when I go over to get a creamy at the ice cream place and you go to park, it stinks. I mean, it's not very appealing. And so.
You don't have to explain not wanting the smell of trash. I get it.
And it's not even me that's living down there, it's the other people. But
right.
The fact is, I go in and out of there and it lowers my, if someone wanted to purchase places up there, they don't want to be driving through and, oh, God, it smells like rubbish. Matter of fact, my mom's home couldn't be sold because of that down in Massachusetts, So I know the concern, if people get the whiff of this all the time, they're not gonna purchase things.
Right.
And where he was saying that it's Brookwood residents that come through there, which is probably true, I've done it myself. But you were saying, if someone drives into the restaurant, why would they go out the back? Well, the same reason why those people go through their way is because sometimes the traffic, it's quicker to go, you know, if you have buses over here or something, you know, or, you know, people do it. So I'm just afraid that there's a lot of kids and stuff over there, and, you know, if people start driving down and around, or even employees, you have, you know, the employee parking in the back or whatever, and then they're gonna decide to go out and around, and, you know, it's just gonna be a lot of traffic, I think.
You know, if that ever happened, we would address it. I don't foresee that happening. It's a shortcut from Brookwood to Route 9, but it's not for someone coming from Route 9 to go back out Route 9.
Right.
I don't foresee that happening at all, but if it was, we would address it, you know?
I wonder if a couple of speed bumps might address your concerns without imposing too much burden on the applicant.
Speed bumps or even signs.
To make sure people aren't driving like jerks.
Well,
Yeah.
Why would you say it's local traffic
It's
only?
difficult for plowing.
It is an issue. I mean,
Oh,
we don't mind
right.
putting a sign that says
Yeah.
not public use.
Okay.
The reality
local
is.
traffic only or something.
Yeah, local traffic, sure.
Right.
Just put a post with the sign on.
Yeah.
We don't have any plans for anybody to go that
Yeah.
way. We don't want to.
And I think in all reasonableness, people aren't going to go in the wrong direction when they know the
Right.
road's behind them.
Right.
We have, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're talking about traffic on Brookwood. It belongs to Tri-Park. I think we need to give permission.
We're not talking about using Brookwood.
But we already have
But it-
permission,
but
we
it-
have
but
a
it
recorded
goes-
right of way, but we're not talking about using Brookwood. If you want, we will definitely put a sign up asking the public not to access it that way. If you're worried about the traffic, then perhaps you should put a sign on the other, or talk to your residents
Yeah.
about not driving through as well, to create safety issues.
Yeah, but if they have it right away, I mean,
Well, I'm just wondering if,
we don't resolve the disputes over the right of way here, but if indeed they do have the right of way, it's appropriate.
but you're talking about the curb cuts,
Yes.
which have to do with Brookwood, don't they?
It's pre-existing road,
In other words,
Right.
you
pre-existing
are.
driveway.
Right. It's fairly confusing.
Ma'am, perhaps I've been doing this sort of stuff for many years, and from looking at the situation, the type of business, the location, and all the situation around, I feel pretty confident that if there's any increase at all from what there is now in the use of that back way onto Brookwood, it's going to primarily be Tri-Park residents themselves. It is not going to be people who come to patronize the business. So perhaps you can, as was mentioned, you can scheme yourself about how to control the residents from that housing area.
Well, the other thing is that Brookwood Drive access allows members of the Tri-Park community to go to this store without having to enter Route 9. And I mean, on a Friday afternoon in wintertime, when people are going up to Mount Snow, that road is miserable. And it occurs to me that that may be something of an asset for Tri-Park residents. You know, if you want to get a gallon of milk, not having to go on and off Route 9 might not be such a bad thing. I noticed there's
God and the devil.
there's a gentleman in the public who's raised his hand. I don't want to rush you, but
I'd just like to say, if you could put a stipulation in about odor from the dumpsters. Basically,
I think that's very reasonable.
the stipulations, you know, have to do with enhancing rather than degrading the experience of the people who are living so close.
It seems perfectly reasonable to me.
We also have rentals there, we have a storage facility, we don't want that any more than you do.
Right. I mean, if you think you can comply with it and they want it, simple. Sir?
I was sworn in.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
Hi, my name is Stuart McDermott. I've been a member of the West Brattleboro Association since its beginning, and we just had our meeting last week. Your project was brought up at our meeting, and there were a number of people who were very adamant and excited about somebody starting a business there. And they thought that was just going to be a plus, because as you may or may not be aware, depending on how often you travel Marlborough Road, the businesses have come and gone. And we really, in our community, like to see more businesses, grocery store, drugstore, so forth and so on. And so I'm speaking tonight, maybe it's more to the board than to the applicant, because we wish success for the applicant. There's things which have already been addressed here, and I don't need to go over those. But we're reminded that along Marlborough Road, there's the Mattress Outlet, which is for sale, American Traders, which is for sale by some very good-looking people.
Actually, it's not anymore, but that's okay.
Oh, well,
We draw it from
good.
He was. But neither.
There's vacant spaces in Central Appliance, that large building there. Also, vacant spaces next to the dollar store, that other big buildings that's there. And one of the other vacant spaces now is what it was, the latest occupant was Mr. G, final markdown, which happened to have...
Pages,
yes, you remember Pages. And it was before that, or after that, it was even a restaurant for a while. And so for somebody who wanted to start a new restaurant, why, there's that structure which exists, which has its septic, all its utilities, all its flood regulations. What an opportunity for a business right there. And so and of course you well know of all the food services that are already there, and I don't need to go over those. And so I guess I leave with my concern for vacant buildings, and they're not being used. And I guess I'm speaking to the board that, of course, you already are aware of these things too, but if you can be any more active in future with the possibility of them being utilized, as I've just said, with the many benefits that they have, that would be great. But for the family, why, good luck in whatever you do when that exists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we all share your concerns. However, our power is fairly limited, and it would be nice if those were filled. And I remember when I was a kid and the insurance business left town, and it seems like it hasn't been the same since. However, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea for this project is not one of the subjects we are here to discuss. It's only whether the access, whether the landscaping, whether the things that could adversely affect abutters or the town in general, based on presumably the good ordinances that were written by the town, need to be enforced. So I appreciate it, but we only have so much power.
I believe those have already been addressed by previous speakers and all of your combined contributions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We have local Act 250 to do. for
Oh,
this too.
okay.
I mean, this is covered by Act 250?
Yes.
It's a part of a PUD, or it's not over 10 acres, so what caused it to be Act 250?
It's an existing, it's an amendment to an existing Act 250 permit.
Okay, so if you don't mind, we normally there are 4 or 5 criteria that we use in reviewing for local Act 250 permits, which are, and I'll just go through them quickly with you. But will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to provide educational services. You're not going to have like 300 kids working there that's going to change the school district, right? No. Okay. Will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to provide municipal or governmental services. I don't think we change.
We don't believe so.
Don't believe so. Is in conformance with the town plan adopted in accordance with Act 250. So this is, the town plan is encouraging business and is encouraging development of this nature. And then,
And specifically in that corridor.
in that corridor. And then finally, does the development reflect the wills of the citizens of Brattleboro as it relates to the future of the town? So I think I've heard, certainly just from Stuart at the very end, that it reflects the wills of at least that particular citizen in terms of the development.
In the town plan, correct.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Beck is addressing all of those in the amendment
Okay.
to the existing Act 250. And not that it matters, but in 1994, when Mr. Record wanted to do the 5,000 square foot building, he did receive the Act 250 permit for that.
There's nothing done with it, but.
So, but it's already permitted as Act 250?
Yes.
Yes.
And it was approved.
And that was because, I mean, it doesn't seem to fit the criteria for Act 250 now, because it's too small. The lot is too small.
It's part of the larger record lot, which included Tri-Park as well.
But it no longer does though, right?
Oh.
I think he was an owner that may have developed more than one parcel, and therefore, when he wanted to develop this parcel, he was an owner that now required Act 250 review, therefore this development of this parcel required Act 250 because.
Yeah, so it's one of those situations where historically it was under Act 250 and now you can't remove it, even though it wouldn't necessarily meet Act 250.
Even though nothing was done on that permit.
Yes.
Could not be withdrawn.
Yeah.
It's all the parcel 60159, so it was subdivided into 3. So this is point 1, Tri-Park is point 2, and Mountain Home is point 3, or Deepwood is point 3.
Okay.
I think part of it also, he had developed other properties within a certain, 5-mile radius or something like that.
Hillwinds probably, I think he had a storage facility up there as well.
Yeah.
So therefore he had exceeded his allotted development potential without undergoing further Act 250 review for any future development.
I don't want to get too far afield here. It seems to me that the current state of affairs suggests that 8 parking spaces would be moved to the back. Am I right about that?
Correct.
Or the side, or somewhere that's not the front.
Yes.
Yes.
Thus, there's no need for a waiver on the parcel. That there be screening on the north side of the parking, that there be a sidewalk measuring 4 feet with 6-inch depth shore pack, that the applicants keep the existing birch presently marked existing tree removed unless necessary for the project.
Okay.
That the applicants ensure the dumpster or the rubbish stored on site does not create enough odor to adversely affect their neighboring parcels. That the barn red constitutes a neutral or earth tone under 2349D7. That there be shrubbery or landscaping sufficient to block light onto Brookwood from traffic, and that be incorporated into the landscaping plan along with the other north side and screening that I mentioned before. That there be signs indicating from the building side that local traffic only pass out the Brookwood Drive exit, and that there be a sign.
I think only pass out the Route 9, do not pass out the Brookwood exit.
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Not
That local traffic only go out the Brookwood exit, that it's not open as a through street.
Oh, local, oh, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
misunderstood that. Okay, all right.
That there be a sign prohibiting public use of the existing driveway that serves the existing building. That a third light, if necessary for new parking in the back of the new building, be consistent with the other 2 light posts. That they be shielded downward cast LEDs. We're going to note that the bollard lights are no longer part of this application. There's going to be a landscaping plan provided. Would require Mr. Beck to submit something to the zoning administrator confirming that there be no net increase in stormwater runoff as a result of any changes here tonight. Or if he wants the final plan have no net increase in stormwater runoff. That the space marked grassy area to the west of the existing building and connected to the new parking lot by a walkway contain seating and a focal feature. That the applicants submit an application to the Division of Fire Safety, a construction application, and no construction begin until that permit is received. That's what I have.
I think you need to state that a revised site plan, I mean, we need a revised site plan is provided to the zoning administrator for review and approval with the chair.
And that.
And that.
Would we get a copy of just what you said? If there's any?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry. You didn't write that all down?
Yeah,
I did.
Good one.
Quite honest, I mean, there's a lot of change here.
Yeah.
Well, the chair is leaning on the sort of single application or single meeting approach. And I think under normal circumstances we might ask you to come back and give us all the new stuff. But if everyone on the board is comfortable that it's defined enough, then.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, if you can accomplish all these things with one new site plan, we'll give it a shot.
Thank you.
But somebody needs to say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I'd just like to, on the lighting side, we don't have a lighting plan per se, we've got some poles here. I'd like to see that you take on board the fact that the lighting is de minimis, it's minimal.
Okay.
We don't need it, if we can reduce the height of the poles and meet your safety requirements, then let's reduce the height of the poles. If we can eliminate the third pole, let's eliminate the third pole.
Who said so moved?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Would you accept that friendly amendment? Yes. Okay. So that's all square then.
I'll second it.
I don't think you need to. Friendly amendment's okay. That's right? You do those Robert's rules, Steve?
I read Robert's rules now and then, yes.
Okay. I just like to make sure we're all on the same page. While we're in discussion, I'd just like to say I appreciate all the people from Tri-Park coming and letting us know what you think about this because it's very helpful to the board. So that being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You want to make it?
So
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. 6-0.